Hello everyone, my name is Financial Charles and welcome back to another Bitcoin video. Today is December 10th of 2023. So today is a good day today. Bitcoin is currently at about $43,800, so right around that $44,000 range still. It looks like we're consolidating. We've been consolidating for the past couple days in this new range. I don't know if we're going to go down or up. I simply do not know. But what I do know is over the past probably 3 months or so, or no, this is 2 months, Bitcoin has gone up 63% in the past 60 days, so that's over 1% a day. Obviously not compounded, but this is quite a radical move that we've seen, and we can see that in the risk metric. This is Benjamin Cowan's video that he just posted yesterday about the risk levels for Bitcoin at its current price. And right now, the risk, as we can see here, it's really creeping up to, past the 0.6. So when it comes to these risk metrics, the closer it gets to 1, which is the top, the higher probability it is that it is the peak. And then the closer it is to 0 is indicative of, a bottom of some sort. So typically, if you were to buy at these lower ranges from, let's say, from 0.4 all the way down to 0, that historically, according to this chart, has been a pretty good time to buy. And, selling at any time above 0.6 has been considered a pretty good time to sell too. If you sold anything above 0.6, you would have sold here at that $16,000 Bitcoin in November of 2020, which, you would have lost out on big gains later on, but, that's besides the point. And then here, when it surpassed 0.6 risk, during that, the middle peak right here in between the 2017 and the 2021 peak right here, and when it peaked up at $14,000, and then obviously these big spikes up in risk, those are also good times to sell if you were going to sell. But I know in this channel I preach just hodling throughout, because Bitcoin is the ultimate source of is the ultimate form of money, and it is the exit strategy. It's like you don't, and I am a firm believer of Bitcoin being the end game. And, if you were to take profits, it's to take profits into Bitcoin. And I don't think there is such thing as taking profits out of Bitcoin, because there's very few things that you can, spend your Bitcoin on that would actually, be better than Bitcoin itself, to diversify into stocks after, a big Bitcoin pump. That might be good in the short term, but I think over the long term, over, decades and decades, I don't think that's going to be the case. And going back to this, I wanted to say that, once Bitcoin hit $44,000, I was highly considering maxing out my Roth IRA, selling some Bitcoin to max out the Roth IRA. And the reason I didn't do that is because, a Roth IRA, even though they tell you, it's tax-free, it's, the ultimate way to wealth, this, that, it's sound investment. I truly, you don't benefit from a Roth IRA until you're 59 and a half. That's when you get to withdraw your funds tax-free. But the thing is, I'm not going to be 59 and a half for like another 30 years or so. And I really don't think that in these next 30 years, I don't think that S&P 500 is going to outpace Bitcoin. I think these next 30 years might be the steep part of the S curve. One thing that's really crazy about this upcoming cycle is that we're awaiting some spot Bitcoin ETF approvals. And to get a spot ETF approval for Bitcoin, that's not something that happens every single cycle. This is something that happens once. So perhaps this is going to be the very, beginning of the S curve. Maybe, when these ETFs get approved, you will see all these big corporations buy into Bitcoin because they finally can in the form of an ETF, whereas they were not able to before. The reason that a lot of these companies aren't invested in Bitcoin is because there's a lot of rules and regulations that they need to follow. So they wouldn't, a lot of them, they just can't invest in Bitcoin, but this makes it easy for them. And I know, they're not following, not your keys, not your coins, but at the end of the day, this spot ETF by BlackRock in theory should be backed by actual Bitcoin that BlackRock is going to buy, and perhaps that's the very reason for this pump. Perhaps BlackRock is buying right now, but I ended up not taking profits into my Roth IRA because once again I can't justify selling the greatest asset of all time and diversifying into something that's not going to even outperform it. I know that diversifying is for safety and for wealth preservation, but the ultimate wealth preservation is to store your wealth in a system that has finite units. So I didn't end up selling my Bitcoin, unfortunately, and it's a psychological struggle because I really feel like I'm never going to be selling my Bitcoins, and I feel like I'm forever going to be buying Bitcoin no matter what the price is, even though it's so high at 44,000 right now. I just can't think of any other place that you can park your assets that will outpace Bitcoin. The best thing you could do is start a business, but again, that's not passive, that's active. You have to, put effort into that business. So really, if it's not Bitcoin, then invest in a business. But if you don't want to invest in a business, there's no reason to be buying any stocks. There's no reason to be buying any real estate. Bitcoin outpaces everything. There's no, cash flow. Whereas real estate, there is cash flow, but you get taxed on that. You get taxed on dividend payments. So you don't get taxed on the dividend payments here. And the whole goal is to really out hodl the IRS. You can hold your Bitcoin up until the IRS becomes insolvent, you know what I mean? And then there's no one to tax you on that if the IRS becomes insolvent. But Bitcoin is the ultimate asset. There's no other asset that can compare to this. And even though I'm preaching all this, that it went up 63% in 60 days. Of course, it brought the risk metric up, and what Ben says is once the risk metric goes above 0.04, he stops buying so heavily, and then once it surpasses 0.6, which we're at right now, he starts to sell, but selling in light amounts. You only sell a little bit here, but then when it gets to 0.8, let's say, that's when you want to sell a lot. But again, it's like, even though according to this data, it would be a good time to sell, again, I cannot bring myself to sell it because there's nothing better. There's nothing better, and especially considering the fact that I believe this very well might be the super cycle, and this bull run and all-time highs might be coming a lot sooner than what we once thought. I know that in my past videos, I was saying that the peak might be in November of 2025 due to the fact that each peak is approximately exactly 4 years apart, and each bear is exactly 4 years apart, and each bear that follows the bull, or each bottom that follows the peak, is exactly 1 year apart. That's true for here, that's true for here, and that's true for this latest one here. But what I didn't take into consideration before is that this first halving here, this happened in July, and then it went all the way up and peaked in December. This one happened a little bit earlier. It happened 2 months earlier, and then we peaked 1 month earlier. So let's see. The next halving is going to happen about 1 month earlier, so perhaps the peak might be a lot sooner, and perhaps we might be seeing all-time highs a lot sooner as well, because the halving is coming 1 month earlier than it was last cycle. Last cycle we reached all-time highs December of 2020. That's when we surpassed this $20,000 once again, and then it hadn't hit $20,000 since December 2017, which was exactly 3 years ago. So if we assume the next peak is going to be exactly 3 years after this 2021 peak, we might say November of 2024 to revisit the 69,000 range, or it might even be October, because as I said, the halving it's coming up sooner than it was last year. But I was really hoping to see this correction for more buying opportunities, but even if we correct, we might not even go all the way down to 30,000 ever again, which is crazy. I remember back during this range right here, I was saying that 30K was probably the new 10K, which is in reference to this 10K range right here, how sometimes we spend time above it, sometimes we spend time below it. So I thought, maybe we'd be going a little bit above 30K and then a little bit below 30K, like, going back to 25,000 or even 20,000 or whatever. But after this extreme move, even if we do get a pullback, I don't see it ever going below 30K ever again, unfortunately. So this is, I don't know. I really don't know. It's really hard to say it's a good time to buy an asset that is up, 60% over 60 days. But then again, this is Bitcoin. There's only 21 million, and this is the free market right here. There's no, once you hold your wallet, or once you hold your coins in your wallet, there's no manipulating that. Stockbrokers like Robinhood, they can manipulate that. They can see what you want to buy and sell, and then they give that to traders. They give that information to traders so they can front run you. You can't really, it's harder to do that with Bitcoin. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just in disbelief, I guess. And I don't know where it's going to go from here. I think it might, have a correction, like a slight correction, probably not even down below $40,000, but all-time highs are not only inevitable, but 100,000 is also inevitable. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's most likely going to happen this cycle, and this cycle might be the craziest cycle yet. I know that as each cycle goes on, we do see diminishing returns, but this is the cycle in which BlackRock is going to enable all these institutions and all these corporations to buy Bitcoin with their spot ETF. And as I said at the beginning of the video, a spot ETF approval is a one-of-one event. It doesn't happen every single cycle. The reason that Bitcoin goes up every single cycle is because of the halving. The amount of Bitcoin that gets put into circulation gets cut in half. So that's going to happen in April, and then in April, Bitcoin is going to be more rare than gold. It already fundamentally is, but the issuance rate is going to be half of what gold is, plus the spot ETF. We might see it rocket to levels that we've never seen before or ever could imagine. And also another thing is, what's really scary, and the reason that I'm really scared of selling my Bitcoin is because that's exactly what the elites want you to do. They want to raise up this price and have you think, oh, that's right. I'm gonna take profits because it's a good price. But once you take profits, it's just gonna explode upwards even higher, because when you take profits, you are selling directly to BlackRock, and BlackRock is never going to give that Bitcoin back to you. BlackRock will never sell it at that price that you sold it for. So I really think selling Bitcoin it's a losing game, because you're going to sell it, and if you ever wanted that Bitcoin back, you would have to buy it back at a much higher price. And I really think that that's what's going to happen. Like, imagine you think it's so amazing that Bitcoin is at $400,000, so you sell a quarter of your Bitcoin, and the next thing you know, once everyone is done selling whatever amount they want to sell, all of a sudden it just goes to $1 million. All that quarter Bitcoin that you sold, you sold it to BlackRock. So now it's in BlackRock's hands, and BlackRock is never ever going to sell it back ever again. BlackRock is going to hold it forever and ever and ever. I think, the game of Bitcoin is to always accumulate as much as you can and to never let go of it. Because as soon as you let go of it, the price is going to skyrocket even higher, and then you're not going to get that same amount of Bitcoin back. You'd have to pay much more, What's going to happen is, once all of us that hold Bitcoin, once we all sell it because we think it's such a high price, it's all going to go to BlackRock, and they would never sell it. I know I keep repeating myself, but let's just think about this. If we had 1 million Bitcoiners in a room and you just rocketed the price up to 500,000 right now, and all of them sold a majority of their coins, they have no more coins to sell, and then it's all BlackRock that has it, and then the accumulation will continue. BlackRock will continue to accumulate. Everyone will continue to accumulate. So it is no longer 500,000. It's now $1 million. But you don't even have any more coins to sell, because you sold it all to BlackRock at 500,000. And now if you want to buy it back, you have to pay a premium. It's like a rinse and repeat cycle. And I think at the end of the day, it's like whoever controls the coins, like you have the power in your hands. You don't lose that power unless you sell those coins. So I think accumulating Bitcoin might be a lifelong journey, and it was just crazy to think that we were so early. And, I think the exponential part of the S curve is upon us. There's no other way to put it. I thought, I had a good idea coming into this video, but as you could tell, if anyone is still listening to this, you could tell that I'm just in shock and awe, and I have no words to really say. It really just occurred to me this morning that, if you were to sell your coins, you would never get it back because BlackRock is going to buy it up and never give it back to you. So I was going to take profits and diversify like a sound investor. But really, if we're talking about sound investing, like, there's nothing more sound than Bitcoin. And as like the words of Matthew Crowder, diversification is just diversification. In the words of Michael Saylor, you are selling the winner to buy the loser. And I don't want to do that. Bitcoin is just the ultimate asset, and is the asset that all these other assets will bleed into. The real estate market is at the peak, and I don't know. I don't know anything about real estate. They say it's going to keep going up, but some Bitcoiners, like Matthew Crowder, they say that Bitcoin will be the one to demonetize real estate, so it will be priced by utility as opposed to, scarcity and all that. But yeah, Bitcoin is the ultimate asset, and just buy it up. Just buy it. Keep buying. It doesn't even matter, and just never sell. I think that's where I'm at right now. I don't know if this is a signal of a peak. Oh, how bullish I am. But the thing is, I'm not even temporarily bullish anymore. I think I'm bullish forever. When it comes to, a Roth IRA, you get to access that money at 59.5, but, S&P 500 compounding for 30 years is great, 7% a year, but it's Bitcoin that is really the value. And, all the companies that make up the S&P 500, they are going to have to put their reserves into Bitcoin. The S&P 500 is just the top 500 companies in the United States. And, these companies that make up the S&P, they are going to be buying Bitcoin for their reserves. So what you're investing in, you should just be investing into Bitcoin directly. So yeah, keep buying and hold it in cold storage. Not your keys, not your coins. Please remember that. Not your keys, not your coins. I learned it the hard way. At the time, I was devastated, but it's one of the greatest lessons I ever learned. And, it's going to be a bright 30 years. The next 30 years is just going to be mind-blowing. So I will keep buying every single check that I get. Every single dollar is going to go into Bitcoin forever and ever and ever until I die. I don't see myself ever, settling for any inferior asset. So thank you guys for listening. I really hope you guys follow this advice too. If you are listening, I think, we might be the next elites. We might be the next elites. I might be delusional, but we might be the next elites. Yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say for this video. I was really hoping I could be more organized in this video because I feel like I had a lot to say, but I ended up just rambling about Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that once again. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.